Do not confuse this with treatment or mental health advice or direction. Nothing on this podcast is made to supplement or supersede the relationship and direction of your mental health caretakers. Although David Kozlowski is a licensed marriage and family therapist, he is not functioning as a certified mental health professional in this environment, but same applies to any professionals who may appear on the Light the Fight podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Light the Fight. If you guys are not watching us on the YouTube, you're just listening.
You're missing out.
You're missing out. But if you're watching us on YouTube, which this will come out a week later on YouTube, you'll notice that I'm in a serious competition with Heidi for the best bangs on the podcast. Yes, you guys. Wait, I'm bringing it in. I'm flopping it around.
This is a new thing. Like, are you growing it out?
I don't know what I'm doing, Heidi. Do I look like a guy that knows what he's doing, that plans things out too far ahead? No, I don't.
Well, just in case you're wondering, Connor came in. Yeah. He's got the long hair, and him and Brandon, our producer, it started an actual competition. So maybe it's like a thing.
Brandon's got the bangs. Her son Connor's got the bangs. I got the.
You've got some bangs.
Yeah, I got the Point Break.
It's a new.
I got the Johnny Utah Point Break bangs going on.
Yes, I love that so much. Oh man.
Hopefully our listeners can remember Point Break, 90s classic.
Are you kidding? Keanu Reeves? Everybody listening right now is like, oh yeah.
I am an FBI agent.
And Patrick Swayze. You guys, it was like the best of the best of the best.
As a surfer, it was a mockery because we're like, this guy learned how to surf in 2 weeks. Right. Nobody. But
he was taught by a girl, whatever.
But it was cool that they had surfing in it, you know? So
love that. Okay, so everybody go watch it. It's on Prime. Hashtag Light the Fight. No, I'm just kidding.
You won't be able to watch it for another week. Don't listen to Heidi. She doesn't. So if you do want to watch it, we'll be up on YouTube in a week from now. But for now, since they're listening to us. Oh, Point Break? Oh, yeah, you can go watch Point Break. Yeah.
Watch it on Prime. Get hyped for the summer.
They had a new version of it, Point Break. A buddy of mine was in it.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I heard about that.
Yeah, so Point Break came out, I don't know, like 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago.
The first one? The Keanu Reeves?
No, the second one.
Oh, I was saying, that was like a long time ago.
Yeah, and the kid had like a really bad fake tattoo all up and down his arm. It was horrible. But my buddy was in it, so I was happy to see a friend in it. That was cool. All right, so anyways, what are we talking about? Okay. Light the Fight.
We're lighting the fight, you guys.
We're lighting the fight with our ADHD and ADD.
I wanted to read a good win, you guys. Can I?
Yeah.
It's been a while since
we ran. From Pinterest or from your life?
No, this is from, like, it was actually submitted.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
And I screenshotted it, but it was, like, actually bigger than my screenshot. So I don't have, like, the whole thing. But you'll get the thing. You'll get the gist. Anyway, this is somebody who, she's like, she starts out where I didn't screenshot it. She says, I don't know where I've been, but I just barely discovered podcasts, and Light the Fight was one of the first ones that she ever listened to. She said, I have been listening and learning. This has been an answer to so many of my prayers, and I'm only on episode 10, and I've already been able to use multiple nuggets of information in my everyday life with my 5 adopted kids who each have their own special needs. We have a couple that have anxiety, depression, and in the past week, learning from your podcast, I've been able to respond instead of react, have deep conversations that would have usually ended up in frustration and anger, but instead ended up with love and joy. And I've been able to admit to one child who in the past has had problems with drugs and alcohol that I was parenting scared. And through our conversation, he was able to help me understand that he needs me to trust him.
Boom. Wow.
I mean, this person is a listener, like listening.
Wow.
And applying.
Man.
So, I don't know. It just made my whole dang day.
Can I get her to write that out? Because if there is a judgment day someday, I'd like a good mom testimony like that and be like, hey, so remember the first 30 years of my life?
David's going to show up and whoever's at the gate is going to be like, what I'm going to need you to do is find at least 10,000 families that you've helped. And he's going to have to go get one of those.
I'll be the first guy to co-sign into heaven or wherever the afterlife has. So, no, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And, I mean, obviously anytime any of our listeners have a win or multiple wins that are based off of our suggestions, our ideas, we get super pumped because when we went through all this stuff, when I was learning this stuff throughout my years as, a practitioner and a counselor, and as you've learned this, as I've coached you on it, it's cool to like get it and understand it, but it's so much cooler when you teach someone else.
It is.
Like when someone else like gets it, you're like, yes, you get all stoked, you get all pumped. Yeah.
It just makes you feel like, I don't know. You guys, thank you for listening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever you're going through, whatever you've been through. I want to thank you for being here and for trying and for recognizing that there's always room for improvement. That every single relationship that you have, there's always, it's always worth putting in the effort, to improve it. I was going back. I'm a nostalgia person, right? A little bit.
You like to take pictures of things?
Yeah, I like to take pictures, and I like to
book?
actually go into my scrapbooks, and I actually like to open them up. Actually, what happened was Quincy asked me if I had any pictures of her baptism day, and I regret to inform all of you, I do not have a picture of Quincy in her like baptism whites, and it's got to be somewhere. But I know I'm failing as a scrapbooker and as a mom. But anyway,
that's so surprising. There must be like a whole stack somewhere that's in its own shoebox. That's more likely than you didn't take any. Go ahead.
Oh, anyway, I pulled up a picture that was taken when Quincy was 6 months old. So she just had her 20th birthday. And so it was about 20 years old next month. And I remember when I looked at the photo, and this is an interesting thing about photos. When you look at them, you can almost remember the feelings, like where you were at that time. And this particular photo, it's one of my most favorite photos, but it was at a hard time in my life. My kids were like, boom, boom, boom. 3 kids under the age of 4. I was overwhelmed. I was trying to, I wasn't satisfied with just being a mom. Like, I was trying to start a website, and I was writing books, and I was also trying to be a triathlete, for crying out loud. And I kind of had this moment where I started out and I was like, what was your problem? Like, couldn't you just enjoy where you're at? And then I remembered that I can't even enjoy where I'm at right now. So that nothing has changed. But I took a moment to think, thank you for trying. Knowing that I wish, and I say this every time I talk to someone about the podcast, I wish I knew this stuff 20 years ago. I'm sure my kids would have benefited so much if I hadn't stabbed the balls.
There probably wouldn't have been any balls to stab.
No, I wouldn't know. It would have been so calm.
Yeah.
But it was gratifying to me just to kind of honor this journey. Like, none of us can know what we know without going through what we have to go through to learn it. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So I know that probably every one of you listening has something that is weighing on you. And I just want to thank you for being here and for trying, and to tell you to just keep going.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things that people have to keep on going, keep on trying is this relationship you have with your children. One particular relationship Heidi and I were talking earlier today about is the relationship between a mother and her daughter, or daughters, right? Just mother and daughter type relationship. Not necessarily like mother, oldest daughter, like we've talked about before. So Heidi and I just wanted to talk about some of the things that we've come across that we felt and feel is very effective in regards to fortifying, boosting, improving, and always constantly evolving the relationship between you and your daughter. Now, Heidi, she's the resident mother.
Yeah.
I'm the resident therapist who has spoken to many of a mother that has daughters, or that have had daughters.
Freaking out mothers.
Yeah. Is there another kind?
No,
Anyways, continue.
Actually,
yeah. Do they come in a different version? Because maybe it's more like freaking out on mild, medium, and hot. Right?
Yes.
There's
there's no mild. There's only no mild, medium and hot.
Medium, hot, and ghost pepper. Okay. So we just want to talk about that a little bit because, relationships. Not only is it what we love to talk about here in the podcast, what we feel is such a key component to everyone's, life, but certain relationships tend to be relationships that are unique. One thing that we were talking about this relationship between a mother and her daughter is that moms, now Heidi can attest this, but moms tend to react differently typically with their daughters than they do with their sons. So Heidi, why don't you talk about that for a second, and then maybe we can delve in a little bit about how we could use this to benefit the relationship.
Well, okay, so this is a true story. It's kind of been like we're in the end of year, so every mother out there is like going to every recital, every sporting championship, every academic Olympiad, all the awards, all the spelling bee, like all the things, right? They all hit in this last month of the school year. And of course, last year we all were deprived. And I think that there was part of us that were like, oh man, I'm so sad. And then there were some of us that were like, yeah, chime in for the virtual. I can be on 3 different devices and attend all of them at once, but what I was saying is that I do think that it's really interesting. So if you can think, those of you who are listening, just think about like the difference if you happen to have a sibling that is a different gender than you, and you think about like you and your sibling, your opposite gender sibling, for me, my brother, and think about your mom and how your mom treated you and how your mom treated your brother, and then maybe even think about your dad and think about how your dad treated you and how your dad treated your brother. And then maybe just zoom back or time travel to today and think like, what are the differences in the dynamic between you and your sons and you and your daughters and you and your pets? Just kidding. We're just so much nicer to our pets mostly. Anyway, But specifically, I wanted to ask David, like, what could he recommend? A few things that he could recommend to every mom out there who has a daughter. You could include daughters-in-law, because there might be one of those on my horizon. That might be a totally different podcast.
That's a totally different podcast.
Maybe it better be on Patreon, because what are some ways that moms can improve their relationships with their daughters specifically? And I think that, maybe down the road we're talking about how dads can improve their relationship with their sons and, kind of mix it up, whatever. But I think that it is an important relationship. And I think many of us would benefit just from really kind of focusing on some things that we can do a little bit differently to strengthen those bonds, and just last kind of my little chime in here is we just moved my mom into a facility where, my mom is pretty far gone. And it's been really interesting for me to personally revisit my feelings about her. And this tidal change of the dynamic of our relationship and the decades of our relationship and how each decade kind of changed. But this is a lifetime relationship. And I think if there's anything I've learned from David is that as we're talking about relationships, these are not, yes, they change, but we want to be building a relationship that will stand for a lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. The mother-daughter relationship, just like what you talked about, I've always seen this in my private practice that, now granted, you guys, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, right? But more times than not, I would always see mothers being a lot harder on their daughters.
And I would raise my hand to that. I see myself in that category.
And fathers being harder on their sons. And I can't remember who it was or how long ago it was, but I remember a parent asked me why I thought that was. First of all, if I agreed with that. And I said, oh, absolutely. She wanted to know if I saw it. And I say, yeah, I see that in my practice. And why do you think that is? I said, well, when you're very familiar with an experience, you know what's realistic to expect. And every mom has been a girl, a teenage girl, a young woman, a young adult. Mom's been through all that stuff. And so when there's disappointments, when there's heartbreaks, when there's all these different types of difficult things that daughters can go through, it's not that moms don't have compassion or empathy for that. But if moms feel like, hey, listen, having too much time to cry or having too much time to be caught up in our emotions or feelings, that can get us kind of not taken seriously. Or maybe that mom felt like people didn't respect her, so she definitely wants her daughter to be strong in that one specific area. And so moms will, I've seen it happen so many times where moms will be pushing. If the mom has identified good grades and going to a great college as the pinnacle, and like that's the pathway to success in life, then that is going to be such a highlighted focus for her daughter. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you think about where that comes from, the mom is trying to protect the daughter in every way that she can. But when the daughter starts to complain about, the pathway's too hard, it's too difficult, that's when the moms can be like, nah, I don't know. I've been there, done that, right?
But every mom also wants that daughter to be better than she was.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, so that was the next thing was coming. So I find another thing ironic, when I'm talking to moms about this, and they'll say that, what Heidi just said, like my daughter is smarter than I was. She's more capable. She has more talents. Like
she has an iPhone.
Yeah, by all realistic expectations, she should be better than me, because if she's not better than me, then I failed. My job was to figure out as much information, download that information to her so that she has a huge advantage into jumpstart into life. And so, of course, mom's going to be harder on their daughters. But problem one of the problems can come from that is the daughter doesn't know for what purpose the mom's being hard on them. The moms can be like, oh, it's for you to be successful, for you to be successful. Well, if future success is not on the daughter's radar, then it can become very personal sometimes, or feel like it's very personal. So that was one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and that Heidi, she'd shared a very simple win that I said, hey, I call it's KSL worthy. So if there was 5 topics that, moms could, come up with to improve the relationship with their daughters, I would use one of the ones that Heidi suggested and she talked about for the podcast. So Heidi, why don't you go and share, what you did with your daughter that you don't typically do, because it's outside of your comfort zone. It's not your shtick, so to speak. And you took a different approach. Instead of saying, hey, this is easy for me, it's like, I think she may like this.
Well, I will say, you guys already know that I'm not a hugger, and it just doesn't come easy to me. What does come easy to me is to write a really heartfelt note, or on a scrapbook page, or maybe even an entire book.
Spray chalk in front of your house.
Yes, I'll decorate, I'll show up and decorate the bedroom for, whatever. That's how, I guess that's my love language, right? But it's very rare for me to actually slow down enough to tell somebody to their face how I feel. I also like to do it in a social media post, right? For the whole world, the whole world can see it, and that person that I'm talking about, or whatever. So that's kind of my comfort level. And for several weeks, I've been feeling this kind of reoccurring thought, I needed to. Oh my gosh! Stop, carpool. There's no. It's done. It ended. Oh my gosh, dance is over. I
don't think any of us were worried. I think it was you that was. I think any of the listeners were looking and going, "Oh my gosh, is she going to get to this carpool time?"
Yeah. Anyway, so last few weeks I've been thinking to myself, I really need to tell my daughter how I'm feeling, because I really as we're coming on the end of this year, I've really been thinking, gosh, she's really stepped up here. I'm really proud of this here, and I really admire this, and look how far we've come. I've been having these thoughts, and so in my mind I've been like, I'm going to make like a scrapbook about this year, and I'm going to kind of just write some of these things that I've noticed. And so I made the decision, and I could feel it. Like I needed to sit down and actually tell her. So when no one else was home, I went up and I said, I want to talk to you for a second. And of course you say that, and they like, oh no, what did I do wrong?
They're like sitting there, okay, where was I last night?
Immediately freaking out and immediately like think they're in trouble. But I said, I said to her, I want to let you know that I'm really impressed about how you've handled the last year. And then because it's been on my mind, I actually was able to like list several things that I've really noticed her step up, that I've appreciated, that I admired, that I really felt like she overcame. And, she just sat there and listened to me, and I looked at her in the eye, and I like had proof in a court of law, like why I was proud of her and that growth actually existed. And, she's a tenderhearted kid, and she really welled up with tears. And in the end, here's the thing. I always, like, when emotions kind of get heavy, and when you're feeling that, like, I'm going to cry, I always crack a joke or try to just like relieve that tension. And you know what? I didn't do it. I just gave her a big hug, and I just said, I'm really proud of you, and I want you to really be proud of yourself. And then I left. I didn't, it wasn't like, okay, now can you just tell me all the things that I've done good over the last year?
Please make me feel validated at this moment. Now I've made myself feel vulnerable. So what Heidi just got done saying is a great example. One thing that really helps in effectiveness to this working, and there's been a lot of research that's been done about this. I won't get into deep about it, but with teenagers, the more random this occurs in these compliments, the more effective they are. It's
That's
just
good. Like not when someone's in trouble, or not right when they receive an award. Or...
Yeah, it's got to be totally random. And I've done that exact same thing that Heidi's talked about from last Friday till today, once with both my kids. And, I wasn't like, I was just thinking about it that, man, here I am. I think all these good things about them, and I'll tell my wife, but I don't ever stop them dead in their tracks and do that. I'm quicker to interrupt my son to correct him than I am to interrupt him to like congratulate him.
Right.
And so I did that one time in particular this week, over the weekend with him and my daughter, and both of them stopped. And you could see as if it was like being just like, zzz, like permanently tattooed in their memory banks of, wow, like my dad really is like checking me out. He's like listening to me, right? And so, with moms and their daughters, I know moms, just like what I said, it's so easy to be in what we have to get done mode, what needs to be accomplished mode, what time, we're running late mode. Like all these modes are just natural things to go through. But if you take a couple times a week, randomly at a time that they wouldn't expect it, to pull them aside, say, hey, come here, be very, just direct about it. Tell them some solid things that you've thought about that you want to give them attaboys or attagirls with. In this case, attagirls for you moms out there. That right there, it leaves more of a long-lasting impression because it wasn't an obvious thing. Like, hey, before we ground you, we're going to give you some compliments, or, hey, like we've been thinking about you a lot lately. Not making a big deal of it and making it in passing and really quick and random is actually the most effective way. Mm-hmm. And I've had parents try it all different ways. And then some parents, when I saw some statistics, I told them specifically to try to do it like when you're getting out of a car and say, come here. They pull them aside the back of the car. I just want to let you know, I've been noticing how much effort you've been putting in one way or the other. Just want to let you know, thank you so much. Mic drop, walk away. It's those quick hitters, those things that are very detailed, but it's such a short moment. It's so detailed and so random. They're left like just shock and awe, like, whoa, like, well, their body's producing all these cool chemicals, making them feel warm and fuzzy inside, and mom gets to walk away feeling like someone who is in command of her statements. everyone wants to follow a great leader. Unfortunately, not all moms are going to view themselves always as a great leader.
True.
It's not even my judgment of them. These are just mothers who've come to me and they're complaining about how they show up or their work or their ability to do all the things, because a lot of them have difficult situations. And so, when they're not believing that they're capable of this, and then of connecting with their kids and being a good mom, going to your kid and making a bold, testifying statement like, listen, you're kicking butt in this area. You're doing great. You're doing this. I've noticed it. Boom, boom, boom. And walking away from it. That sounds very leader-ish like. And for a lot of you moms out there, the more you can come across as a confident leader, you're going to get respect from your kids, from not just your kids are going to respect. Your kids, in my opinion, are going to appreciate a lot of all the things you do for them. But appreciating someone helping you is not respecting that person's strength. Those are totally two different things. And, a number of moms throughout the years have come to me and they're like, I do a really good job in the caring part, but I don't really feel like I get respect as like a leader in the family. And so one thing that a number of moms started to figure out was this little pathway of, the random suggestion, the random comments, making it quick. Allows you to portray yourself as the strong, confident person you are, but look what you're strong and confident about. You're strong and confident about their capability. Mm-hmm. So it's a twofer. Like, you get to be this leader and showing that you can, grab the bull by the horns and be assertive with your kid. And the thing you're being assertive about is about them, and you're testifying of their capabilities or something that they're excelling in at that time.
Go ahead. I'm just going to add one thing, which is, here's my tendency. You are doing so awesome. Thank you for taking out the garbage without me even asking. Thank you for getting up on the first time I came and got you, whatever. But this room, trash. Whatever. Like, yeah. Leave off the butt when this is going on, right? Like, it's not a pork belly type of a situation. Yeah,
this isn't like I'm gonna hit you high and low.
Right.
This is like, let me give you a compliment and something you need to work on. This is not a teaching time. This is just to being like, hey, this is what's up. Like, I'm confident in you. I'm thankful, and I want to mention it. Something about, and hopefully our listeners are really tuning into these intricate little details about you making bold statements out of the blue that catches your kid off guard. And for all you moms out there, you may be wondering, like, what are these bold statements I could make? Only you'll know that. Only you'll know the true things that your kid can't say, oh, you're just saying that because you love me and you're my mom. Right. It's got to be something you're like, listen, that was not easy for you to do this week. You didn't get an A. You didn't, kill it. But, man, the fact that you finished, you didn't give up, high five, that shows strength. Mm-hmm. It's harder to be, motivated to do something you have no interest in.
Well, and when you just say, you're doing great, that's different than saying, when you did this and that was really awesome. So kind of being specific about it.
Yeah.
Gives you more credibility, gives them more credibility.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to mention for all you moms out there, we talked just right before this about moms, for most, I think, would agree with this, that you're going to be hard on your daughters. That's something that I actually flipped around for a couple moms and told them, I think what you need to do is I think you need to go to your daughters and confess to them that you realize that you've been harder on them. And instead of excuse your behavior with, it's only because X, Y, and Z, and I want all these great and amazing things for you. What I started to experiment with a couple families, a couple moms figured that there was some wisdom in this, so they gave it a shot, and then one thing led to another. They would go to their daughters, and instead of using an excuse, they'd say, listen, I'm realizing that, if you've ever felt like I've been harder on you than your brother or someone else in the family, I apologize. And it's not an excuse, but I realize that because I'm a girl and you're a girl, you're right. I am harder on you because I'm like, I don't want you to be anything like all the things about me I don't like. And I see that you could live a life free of all my insecurities, fears, and worries, and angst, right? Or undesirable things I don't like about myself. You have the opportunity to live free of all those things. And all I got to do is just give you the right information. But when you falter, I got to get better at not taking that personal. Like you're not personally trying to say, Mom, I want you to relive your past through me. I want you to completely have to see me make all the same mistakes you made. And so by just it takes it away by putting it out there. Just stating, listen, if you have felt this way, or I don't know if you felt this way, but I realize that I am a little bit hard on you, but you have to be really careful to not excuse your behavior. Say, I'm not giving this as an excuse. I'm just saying, I'm realizing that this is something I've done. And I realize that because I'm a girl, you know, I have a lot of these same things, but now I want to tell you that that's something that I don't want to do. Like, I don't want to make you feel as if like you have to be better than me. You're already better than me. Right. Just by you being in my life. Right. So there's just a lot of ways that we can just use that as almost like a piece between a mother and a daughter, because daughters, and by the way, for you mothers listening to this is going to be specifically ripe for the people that have had their daughter tell them things like, hey, mom, I feel like, you know, you're trying to, you know, compare me, control me, this, that, you know, you're too hard on me, you're pressuring me too much. I'm not saying don't pressure your kids and don't expect a lot of them, but if they feel that pressure is, if they don't succeed, now they failed you, that's not the right type of pressure. They're going to already have enough pressure to want to be successful and good at whatever it is they're working on anyway. So just throw it out there. Tell your daughters that this is something you're aware of, you're realizing, and it's something that you're going to work on. And if they ever feel like, you know, you're coming at them in a way where, you know, you're just, you know, being overbearing and, you know, you're trying to make it like life or death, just say, I give you permission to remind me that, I just, you have permission to remind me that I'm doing a little bit too much right now, you know. And a lot of moms and daughters come up with their own language that they can say in public with each other to not embarrass one another. Like daughters like basically say, mom, that's enough. Or a mom saying, hey, sweetheart, like I'm getting really irritated and I don't want to like have a Karen moment in front of all the neighbors right now. Like everything, like, wow, that lady, she freaked out over nothing, having no idea what was building up all day long, right? Yeah. So go ahead. Did you want to make a comment? Well, I know it's fire hosing, rambling off.
No, I think that a lot of times the reason why we do it and the reason why our kids are assuming we do it don't always line up because our kids haven't been parents yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so to me, I think kind of a combination of all these things is really like being vulnerable. Sometimes that's hard for a mom to be vulnerable with her daughter because she kind of feels like her job, we've talked about this before, that my job is to be strong. My job is to make sure you are doing this, and this. I think that as my kids are getting older, particularly I got a kid who's getting married, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, he doesn't even do this. You know, I'm failing. You know, like you're thinking to yourself, like, have I done everything possible? And so I think there's a vulnerability that needs to be improved between a mother and a daughter that doesn't, you know, that kind of goes back to like vulnerability is not weakness. And it doesn't have to be like you feeling like you have to just roll out your shame into a pity party situation, but really expressing, which this takes you having to think about it yourself. Like, why do I do that?
And if you start off a conversation as a mom with self-reflection of things that guaranteed your kids have already thought about you, and you say that out loud, you have so much buy-in, it's ridiculous. It's like that you've got their attention, now they're listening, now they want to hear what's going to come next.
Right.
And that's the openness and vulnerability, because assertive vulnerability, which I believe is like the really the best cream of the crop type of vulnerability, it's you're being bold, you're boldly expressing your most sincere thoughts, feelings, and opinions in a way just simply to connect with another person, not for confrontation, not to bicker, complain, take shots at that person, simply to try to, hey, put yourself out there. And that's what assertive vulnerability is. And when we can be assertively vulnerable with our kids, we're showing them what a wise, mature person does. A wise, mature person doesn't come to a potential disagreement with the biggest weapon. Wisest person comes saying, hey, listen, I'm so glad that we could agree to talk about our disagreement, right? Mm-hmm. A wise person really just like, hey, man, like, whew, I'm so glad that After all that we've been through, you'll still come and talk to me after school sometimes. The mothers that have had the most success with building relationships with their daughters after having horrible relationships with their daughters had to follow that step, that process of, if you're not offering the vulnerability continuously, then it's going to be really difficult for your kid to know if this is a ploy or if this is a trap or if this is something that you're sincere about. Because all kids have complained to me at some point, like, yeah, my parents told me I could tell them anything. Yeah, my parents said this. And it's like, it's a trap. It's like it backfired. And so their brains don't forget that. Their little minds say note to self.
Right.
Never
do that.
Never do that one again, right? And so all you mothers out there that are listening, please use the vulnerability in the sense that we're talking about in these two different types of suggestions, where you're bringing that to your daughters. You're letting them know that you see a lot of things that they're doing. You want to acknowledge it, and you don't have to make a big deal about it. You could just be one of those like atta girls, like they're out passing in the hallway. And when you do that randomly, you'll find out that there's trust and there's credit growing with you, so that when there are bigger things that are coming that your daughter might need to be vulnerable about or feel insecure about, the likelihood of her coming and talking to you because you've just been offering that the whole entire time is extraordinarily high.
Right.
Very high.
One other thing that I want to add, I feel like and I've talked about this before. You have this fear that like, oh, you're not allowed to be their friend. You still have to be their mom. And one thing that friends do, if you think about like the best friendships that you have, not necessarily like your best friend, because your best friend gets a lot of slack, right? But the best friendships that you have, those people actually notice things. So you don't have to spell everything out. They might notice that you haven't been acting like yourself. They might notice that things have been wearing on you. They might notice that you don't seem as chipper as you usually do, or that, that something is off, or they might, as you tell them things, they might notice, wow, you're really juggling a lot or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that actually noticing, and this kind of goes back to our statements and questions thing, but when you notice, like, I've really noticed that you seem stressed. I can tell that you're dealing with a lot right now. And that's hard. Just noticing and kind of giving them some validation for being stressed or for being tired or for not feeling like themselves. Yeah. I really appreciate it when someone says, man, I can tell you're really dealing with a lot right now.
Now, if you're a mom out there that notices and says too much, this is not for you. Because there are some moms out there that they notice everything. Their kids are like, all right, enough. They can see it coming.
Right, okay,
But this for the mom that you're talking about, I think that's a very, very important suggestion to just state some things that you notice. Because like you said with the statements, when someone notices that someone else is aware of their surroundings, like you said, that can go a long way. Even if they're in a bad mood and they don't want to talk about it at that moment, just to know that other people are seeing what they got going on makes you feel validated, makes you feel appreciated, and you're more likely to talk when the opportunity presents itself.
Mm-hmm. And I think don't let any good thing go unnoticed either. So be a noticer, I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm just too busy. I'm so wrapped up in myself. I'm not very good at noticing. It's a problem.
You're more self-noticing.
I notice myself really, really well. Really
Yeah.
notice when I'm stressed. I really notice when I'm hungry. I really notice when I need a Diet Coke. I'm really tuned into myself.
Really tuned into a good or bad hair day, right? Stuff like that. No, well, I think those are a couple good tips for you guys out there. And, for our listeners that, have daughters out there, for you moms that have daughters, take all this that we're saying as these are thoughts that we're having in our conversations with other moms. And, for me, with my clients I've had in the past, I like to be able to share this information. I know Heidi likes to be able to share this information. And we obviously could share 30, 40 different types of tips, but we want to pick out a couple that we could just let you guys sit with and see how you can work into your own relationships with your own daughters out there. Because at the end of the day, someone's got to push you around that wheelchair, right? When we get older, I mean, it's sad to say. I'm turning the corner, Heidi.
Is tough.
When you get old like me,
know.
Heidi. When you get old like me, Heidi, trust me,
I
you're
know.
feeling all those joints,
It's true. No wonder you're being so nice.
those
to your
aches and
kid.
pains.
I don't know. It is tough being that mom and daughter relationship. It can make or break your whole entire day, your whole entire week.
It can be the most amazing relationship too.
Yeah.
When
can.
it's on, there's nothing better. Seeing
And
two a mom and a daughter having a good time eating lunch together. You can just see it as a spectator walking by. You can see that's a good moment.
Yeah, and not every day is those highs. You gotta have the highs and the lows, right? Right.
Yep.
So anyway, you guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up. Like I said, every single one of you parents who are listening, we know how much you love these people that you're doing everything that you can think of to help because you love them so much. And so keep going, keep listening, keep sharing, keep helping us to light the fight.